Hello and welcome to the presentation. This is one of a series of presentations on Microsoft licensing. Additional presentation in this licensing series can be found at www.learnlicensing.com. Today we'll be talking about Microsoft Virtualization, focusing on presentation virtualization. We'll first take a look at the products that deliver on presentation virtualization, and then we'll go into the individual licensing models for each one so that you can assure that you've correctly licensed for your virtualized environment. There are 4 other presentations in this series on virtualization licensing, and we'll tell you where to find these at the end of the presentation. Microsoft has virtualization capabilities that go from the desktop to the data center. Let's take a look at the Microsoft virtualization story. Microsoft virtualization technologies really do go across an organization, offering 4 main areas of functionality. First, there's server virtualization, which allows you to create virtual servers, helping you make better use of your physical hardware. Then there's application virtualization, which helps to combat application complexity, allowing applications to run completely isolated from each other. There's desktop virtualization, which gives IT administrators an easy and centralized way to manage their employees' computers. And finally, there's presentation virtualization, which gives high levels of IT control and security when delivering both desktops and applications to users. You may choose to deploy some or all of these virtualization solutions in your organization. Let's take a look at the technologies that you deploy to take advantage of virtualization within your organization. In this presentation, we will take a look at traditional presentation virtualization technologies such as Windows Server 2008 terminal services. Finally, we'll review Microsoft's management products, an important element in provisioning and managing a virtual infrastructure. A key benefit of these management products is that it's the same set of tools to manage both your physical and your virtual environments with the System Center suite of applications. The focus of this presentation is on presentation virtualization. Let's start off with a quick look at some of the benefits that presentation virtualization can deliver to an organization. Presentation virtualization is commonly used today in the form of terminal services. Most customers and even end users typically don't even think of presentation virtualization when the buzzword virtualization is raised in conversation. However, presentation is an example of virtualization, is that it allows end users and IT administrators to redefine how users interact with existing systems. With presentation virtualization, administrators are able to improve and centralize control and overcome common security problems, like letting users log in from remote locations while still being part of the local domain, while also improving the capabilities to tackle problems with application complexity and provisioning. Best of all, end users can easily interact with presentation virtualization solutions without material latency. It's also worth noting that terminal services functionality is a perfect example of how Microsoft envisions virtualization solutions, as integrated extensions of existing features and functionalities. In other words, terminal service is implemented as a role and feature of the operating system. Let's look further. Terminal services is part of Windows Server 2008 services, which means that you can simply activate terminal services within your existing Windows servers. The terminal services functionality in Windows Server 2008 lets you remotely execute applications on a Windows-based server from a wide range of devices over virtually any type of network connection, so the client software is actually running on the server but can be completely transparent to the user. Your network can consist of both client machines running software locally and those software running through terminal services. Let's take a look at the licensing considerations for running terminal services in your organization. Let's take an example of server running Windows Server 2008 with terminal services activated with both users and devices that need to connect to it through terminal services. The licensing requirement for the server is the Windows Server license. The internal users and devices connecting to and using the services on the server need to license all users and/or devices with both Windows Server CALs and terminal services CALs. You have the option to choose whether user CALs or device CALs or a mixture of both are appropriate for your organization. It is also possible to license external users for terminal services by purchasing Windows and terminal server user CALs. But a cost-effective route can be to purchase external connector licenses, which take away the requirements for individual CALs and license an unlimited number of users. In this scenario, you would need to purchase a Windows Server 2008 external connector license and a terminal services external connector license. As we mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, there are 4 additional presentations covering the other aspects of Microsoft Virtualization licensing: server virtualization, application virtualization, desktop virtualization, and virtualization management. You can find these presentations at www.learnlicensing.com. You'll also find an accompanying downloadable quick reference card outlining the major principles of this presentation and a resource list to get more information related to this topic. Look here too for additional licensing presentations covering licensing principles and in-depth product licensing models. Thank you for joining this presentation on Microsoft Presentation Virtualization licensing options.